Good morning, guys. I just wanted to go ahead and make a little video for you guys about the box and whisker plots because I've been getting questions and you guys are, seems like some of you guys are struggling with this skill on Khan Academy. So I did want to give you guys some instructions on how you should actually work with a box and whisker graph. And then I'm also going to go through a couple of the questions on Khan Academy so y'all can see that for yourself. And then maybe be able to use that as an example for your own. So first of all, a box and whisker graph is just a way to represent the data that we have. Here is an example of a box and whisker graph. Notice the layout of it. This is the reason why it's called box and whisker, because you have a box in the center, and then you have like these two little whiskers on the side. The main thing that you need to know about a box and whisker plot is that it has 5 different data points that it shows us. It shows us 5 different things. The first thing that a box and whisker graph shows us is it shows us the smallest number. It shows us the minimum value in that set of data. So if I were to look at all the test scores that I have in the class, it would show me the lowest score. So that would be our minimum. At the same time, it also shows me the maximum score. So let's say somebody made a 100 on that test. That is the maximum score. So it would show me that somebody made a 100. In addition to the minimum and the maximum, we also have something called the median. We already know what the median is. That is the middle value in our set of data. After you have put them in order from least to greatest, please make sure you're putting them in order from least to greatest to find your median. Some of y'all were missing that question earlier on one of the other Khan Academy assignments. But median is the number in the middle. And then there are these two other things called the lower quartile as well as the upper quartile. And so I'm going to talk about them a little bit more, but the lower quartile is this value right here, and the upper quartile is this value right here. And what the upper and the lower quartiles are is essentially after you found the median, then you only look at the numbers that are on the left side, and you want to find the median of that. And the upper quartile, you look at all the numbers that are above the median and you want to find the middle of that. But we'll talk about that in a second. But the 5 summary statistics, so anytime you hear 5 summary statistics, I'm talking about the minimum, the lower quartile, also known as Q1, the median, also known as Q2, the upper quartile, also known as Q3, and then the maximum. Those are the 5 summary statistics. That's what you need to know to graph a box and whisker plot. And that's what a box and whisker plot will tell you. Okay, so keep those things in mind. I've also given you guys the definitions of that on the vocabulary sheet. But now let's look at some more information about a box and whisker plot. So in addition to the minimum, the Q1, the median, the Q3, and the maximum, you also need to know that a box and whisker plot is broken up into 4 different sections. So you have this section right here, one whisker. Then you have this box right here. You have another box, and then you have the last whisker. So it also breaks up our data into 4 different sections. And each section of a box and whisker plot represents 25% of the data. So 25% of the data is going to be located in that whisker. 25% of the data is going to be located in this first box. 25 here, and then also 25% in that whisker on the end. So each section of the box and whisker plot represents 25% of the data. And so that's something that's important for you guys to realize when you start interpreting and answering some of these questions, is that each section represents 25% of the data. So in fact, let's say that I had 12 pieces of data. So if I had 12 pieces of data, how much data would be in each section? Well, 25% of 12 is going to give you 3. So that means in each section you would have 3 pieces of data in each of those sections. That's what the 25% means. So now let's look at how we can create a box and whisker plot, because we know what it is. We know the 5 summary statistics that's involved in it. We also know that each section represents 25%. Now let's look at an actual example where we have to create it. So let's say I gave you these numbers, 4, 4, 10, 10, 10, 14, 15, 16, 22, 25. And let's say I asked you guys to come up with the box and whisker plot for this. Well, the first thing that you should be doing to come up with the box and whisker plot for this is you should be understanding or coming up with the minimum, the Q1, the median, the Q3, and the maximum. So I'm going to show you guys how I put this information together. So my first step is always go ahead, your minimum is going to be 4, your maximum is 25. So those are the first things that I would go ahead and take care of. So my minimum is 4, My maximum is 25. The next step is I would go ahead and figure out what the median is going to be. And so several of you guys have different ways of finding the median. One of the ways that I'm going to find the median is just the old-fashioned, just kind of figure out what's in the center. So I can knock out 4, I can knock out 25, I can knock out 4, 22, and just keep going till you get to the center. 10, 16, 10, 15. And notice in this case, I have two numbers in the center. Both of those cannot be the median. So anytime you're trying to find the median, and you have, don't talk about my handwriting, and you have two numbers in the center, you're going to take the 10 plus 14. And if we do 10 plus 14, that is going to give us 24. And then what you do is you add the two numbers together and then you divide by 2. So now I take my 24 and I'm going to divide by 2, and that gives me 12. So what that means is that the median is actually 12 for this set of data. So the middle of this set of data is represented by 12. Now it's time to find the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So this is how it works, and this is the easiest way to do it. So let me show you. So what you're going to do, and I'm going to erase all this so I can look at my numbers clearly. So first step is we found that the median was 12. So that means that the median is in between 10 and 14. So this is 12. So now in order to find the lower quartile, I'm going to pay attention to the numbers that are on this side of 12. And so if I look just at these numbers that are on the left side of 12, the lower side of 12, well, we want to see what's the number that's going to be in the center on the left side. So we're going to do the same thing. 4, 10 are gone, 4 is gone, 10 is gone, and I'm left with 10 as the middle of the left side. So that means 10 is the lower quartile. Then if you look at the right side, so now let's do the same thing to the right side to find the upper quartile. I look above 12, I look on the right side of 12, and now I need to find the median of these numbers. So 14's gone, 25's gone, 15's gone, 22 is gone, and I'm left with 16. So that means that the upper quartile is 16. So that's how you find the 5 summary statistics if they give you a set of data. And then once you have that set of data, and once you have those 5 summary statistics, you can then put your box and whisker plot together. Okay, so let's put it all together. So what you're going to do is you're just going to put a point at each of those spots. So we're going to put our first point over here, which is at minimum value of 4. So you're going to put a point here at 4. And then the next one is at 10. So we're just going to put a point right here over the number line at 10. Then what you're going to do is you're going to make your first whisker. So I'm just going to connect my 4 to my 10. Don't talk about my graph. Okay. Then you're going to make another point at 12 to represent your median. So we've already made the first whisker. Now we're making the box. We're going to put a point at 16. And so now this is our box. And so literally what you can do is you can just make your box like this, not like that. Let's try that again. So let's make our box. One line, another line here, another line here, and then just like this. Okay, so now we have our box, and then we got to make a point at 25, which is going to be right here between 24 and 26. And so then you just have a straight line over here. And so this box and whisker plot represents the set of values that we have. It tells you that the first value is 4, that's your minimum. It tells you that the maximum value was 25. It tells you that the middle value, the median, was 12. It tells us that the Q1 is equal to 10. And then it also tells you that the upper quartile is equal to 16. So that's how you graph a box and whisker plot. Next thing I'm going to show you is how to read a box and whisker plot and how to understand what it's saying. So let's look at this next example. So in this next example, you have a box and whisker plot that represents test scores. So let's say everybody took a test in the class and I represented it with the box and whisker plot. Side note, that actually does happen in Infinite Campus. When I open up my grade book, it shows me a box and whisker plot for each assignment, each test that you guys have taken. But let's look at it. So based off the box and whisker plot, it says, what is the minimum value? Well, the minimum value, so see if you can actually answer these questions before I show you. But the minimum value should be where it starts, which is here. So that should have been 55. It says, what is the lower quartile? The lower quartile is this first line here. So this first spot here is 70, so should be 70. It says, what is the median of the scores? The median of the scores is the number that's in the middle, so the middle value of our box. So that's at 75, so the median of the score should be 75. What is the upper quartile, meaning what is this value right here at the end of the box? That's 85, so there's your upper quartile, also known as Q3. And then what is the maximum value? We know that the maximum value based on this graph is 100. In addition to that, it's asking you about what is the 5 values called? So the above 5 values, the minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and the maximum, they should be called the 5 summary statistics. So that's what we're looking for. Number 7, what is the range of the data? So remember, in order to find the range of the data, you take the highest minus the lowest. That's another word that's on that vocabulary sheet I gave you. So the highest in this case is 100, and minus the lowest value in this case, which is 55. So when we do 100 minus 55, you should get 45. So that tells you the range. So that means the student scored between 45 points from the highest to the lowest. We have a 45-point range between the highest and the lowest scores. So that means we got some people who failed, and we also got some people who passed. All right, so now let's look at the next question. It says, what percentage of the data is below the upper quartile? So the first job is to identify the upper quartile. The upper quartile is right here. So this is our upper quartile. And then it says what data is below. So it's asking about everything that is below the upper quartile. So everything from this point forward. So if we look at that, we want to see what percentage are we talking about? Well, there's 25% of the data in this whisker, 25% of the data in this box, and then you got 25% of the data in this box. So in total, that is 75% of the data. Here you go. Let's look at the next one. Let's see if we can figure that one out. So it says, for the next one, it says, what percentage of the data is located between the lower quartile and the median? So the lower quartile is right here, and the median is right here. So when we look at that, it's only talking about this section, so that is simply 25% of the data. Only 25% is represented. Second to last one, it says, what percentage of the data is above the median? So now we're trying to look above the median. So the median is here in the center. If we want to look above, we're looking at this section right here. And this one should actually be an easy one, because if the median is in the middle, that means there's got to be 50% of the data above that median. And if you want to think about it, well, if you look at it, this section is 25, this section is 25, so that also makes sense. So we should have 50% of the data that is above the median. All right, and then the last question here, when reading a box and whisker plot, it says, what percentage of the data is below the lower quartile? So the lower quartile, remember, the lower quartile is this value right here. And so it says below the lower quartile, so it means everything below. Well, that just leaves us with the whisker, which is simply 25% of the data. So your answer for number 11 should be 25% of the data. So that's how you kind of go through, read a box and whisker plot, understand what it's asking you, and that's simply it. So that's what a box and whisker plot is. What I'm going to do right now, though, is I do have a few questions that I'll go over based on Khan Academy. So you can look at these questions real quick. So for this one, it says, which data set could be represented by the box plot shown below? Well, here's a quick way to do this. So first of all, the minimum is 41. So that means the smallest number should be 41. So look at this. Look at which ones have a smallest number of 41. B is automatically out. Then it has a maximum of 50. So the maximum value here is 50. So let's see if that knocks anything off the list. Nope, everything's still good. It has a median of 44. So 44 is our middle value. So then we can look at these different sets and see which one has a middle value of 44. So let's just quickly do that. So let's see if I knock off these and see what I'm left with in the center. Let's see if we're left with 44. So let me just keep going here. Notice in this case we're left with two numbers here. So what you would do is you would do 43 plus 47, excuse me. Divide that by 2. And notice in this case, if you do that, you end up getting 45. So 45 is the median for this, so A cannot be an answer choice either. When you add them together, you get 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. That's not our answer choice. Once again, let's keep working. So let's see if we find the median to be 45 in this case. So 41's gone, 50's gone, 42, 50, 43, 49. Oh, this might be the one. Okay, so 43 and 44. You could add those together. So if you add 43 plus 45, you're going to get 88, and divide that by 2, you will get 44. But even if you just think about it, think about what number is between 43 and 45. Well, that is 44. So that's an option. So it passes that test. Let's check D though to make sure, because you don't want to guess and D wrong. So 41, let's see, 41, 50, 42, 50. Let's keep going. Oh, see, I knew it. Notice 43 and 44, 45. The middle would be 44 here as well. So C and D are both options. That means we need to look at the upper quartile, which is 43 in this case. So let's look at that. Well, actually look at it. If you notice, they have the same numbers on the left side: 41, 42, 43, 43, 41, 42, 43, 43. So it's not even going to help us to look at the lower quartile. We need to focus on the upper quartile, which is 48. So we want to see out of these, which one has a upper quartile of 48. So let's see. So let's look at that real quick and see if we can figure this out. So here's our median. So when we look at the middle set of this, the middle number is 49. When you look at this set, the middle number is 48. Therefore, the answer has to be D, because D is the only option that has all of the matching summary statistics. So the minimum is correct, the maximum is correct, the median is correct, the lower quartile is correct, and the upper quartile is correct. So D has to be the correct answer choice. So that's how you want to work through creating box plots, that particular assignment. Let's look at the next. So reading box plots, that's another assignment that you guys have for this week. It says, find the interquartile range. So the interquartile range is on that vocabulary sheet, but it's literally Q3, so the upper quartile, minus Q1, the lower quartile. So in this case, the upper quartile is 8, so we would do 8 minus the lower quartile, which in this case is 3. So 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So the answer for this question would be 5. And that's it. That is your interquartile range. Remember, IQR, or interquartile range, is Q3 minus Q1. And last but not least, it says, for this is for interpreting quartiles, what percent of high schools in Orange County have more than 130 band members? Well, in this case, you see 130 is the max. So is there anybody that has more than 130? No. Therefore, the correct answer in this case would be 0%. There's nobody that has more than 130. But what you're doing for these questions is you're looking at it as a box and whisker plot and thinking about how would this set be? If this is the minimum, and then it goes to Q1, and we start our box here. It's asking you to look for those percentages just like we did in the other example. So make sure you work through these assignments today. If you have any questions, send me a message on mine, send me an email. Also look at the notes that I posted for you guys. So go ahead and knock out the 3 assignments that I posted for you guys today to complete.